France is one of the most important countries in Europe and the world. With a population of 68 million, it is the third most populous country in Europe. The French economy ranks 7th in the world, with a total GDP nearly equal to that of India. Even though India's population is 20 times larger than France's, the French language and culture are renowned globally. France's military spending ranks 8th in the world, and it maintains military bases all across the globe. For centuries, France has consistently been a global power. Because of this, one particular fact is especially shocking. Nearly 1/3 of France's land is essentially an empty void. Partly for this reason, French influence has been in relative decline for centuries, and that decline has continued over the past few decades. As is well known, the outline of mainland France in Europe resembles a hexagon. Therefore, France is often referred to simply as the Hexagon. Thanks to this unique shape, it is very convenient to use a geometric perspective when discussing France's regional data, population, and history. If you draw a diagonal line across the map of France, starting from the port city of Le Havre on the English Channel, straight through the center of Marseille on the Mediterranean coast, you would roughly split France in half. However, 60% of French people live to the east of this line, while only 40% live to the west. This becomes even more apparent on a population density map. But what's more interesting than this line is this specific area. Between these two lines is a belt of land nearly 1,000 kilometers long and about 400 kilometers wide on average. It covers nearly 1/3 of France's total land area, roughly the size of Belarus. Within this vast region, the population density is only about 30 people per square kilometer, similar to the US state of West Virginia. French demographers call this region the empty diagonale, la diagonale du vide. While compared to other parts of the world, this place is far from being truly deserted. It is an anomaly within France and Europe. The average population density of France is 120 people per square kilometer, which is 4 times higher than in the empty diagonal. To put it in perspective, England is as high as 270 people per square kilometer, 9 times that of France's empty diagonal. Administratively, France is divided into 18 regions. Regions are divided into departments, and departments into communes. Somewhat similar to the state, county, and city system in the US. The least populous department in France is located. It covers an area of nearly 5,200 square kilometers, yet has a total population of only 76,000 people. If you put the entire population of Lozère into London's Wembley Stadium, there would still be 24,000 empty seats, and Lozère is located right in the heart of the empty diagonal. It is by no means an isolated case. All departments along this central diagonal have populations far lower than those on either side. So, what exactly caused this anomaly in the heartland of a major European power? First, we must understand the history of the French population. For centuries, France's demographic structure largely determined its success and influence. Throughout most of the history, France was the most populous country in Europe. During the Middle Ages, more than 1/4 of Europeans were French. Even in the 17th century, the ratio remained 1/5. During the French Revolution and the Napoleonic Wars, France was still Europe's leading demographic power, outnumbering all of Russia. and nearly doubling the population of Britain. In fact, during the Napoleonic era, France was the fourth most populous country in the world, trailing only China, India, and Japan. Compared to all its neighbors, this massive population base explains why France dominated European affairs during the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, and the early industrial era. But starting from the 19th century, France's demographic advantage over its neighbors began to reverse sharply. The French birth rate began to decline as early as the late 18th century, much earlier than any other European country. Then, the Revolution and the Napoleonic Wars resulted in nearly 2 million French deaths, leading to stagnant population growth for the remainder of the 19th century. Throughout the 80s, there were many years where deaths in France outnumbered births. Then came the First World War. In just 4 years, France lost 10% of its young male population, with 1.3 million soldiers killed. The regions hardest hit by this population crash were undoubtedly rural France. Because at almost the same time, France was undergoing rapid urbanization. The population became highly concentrated in a few core cities: Marseille, Lyon, Lille, and most importantly, Paris. Starting from the 17th century, Paris continued to expand, as hundreds of thousands of rural peasants flooded into the city seeking opportunity. By the early 20th century, 40% of French people still lived in rural areas. But in just a few decades, the combined pressures of war deaths, conscription, falling fertility rates, and accelerated urbanization took their toll. By 1985, the proportion of France's rural population plummeted to just 8%. At that time, nearly 1/5 of all French people lived in the Paris metropolitan area alone. However, the impact of urbanization and war on rural France was not uniform. For instance, the mountainous Alps saw a slight population decline. But tourism flourished. Most of France's wine regions remain very rural. Yet they are thriving industries with strong tourist appeal, keeping their populations at healthy levels. But there are deeper geographical reasons for the sparse population of the empty diagonal. Looking back at the map, you will notice that one end of the empty diagonal borders the inland area of Belgium, and the other end connects to the inland area bordering Spain. While not all coastal areas of France are densely populated, it is logical for coastal regions to have more people. Globally, 40% of the human population lives within 100 kilometers of a coastline. So, this diagonal line cutting through the French interior essentially connects to inland regions that are statistically already prone to lower populations. In fact, if you ignore national borders, the trend of the empty diagonal continues. Across the Pyrenees and into Spain, a country that also faces its own demographic issues with low birth rates. But the reason goes beyond just being away from the sea. The diagonal is primarily agricultural land globally. As agriculture becomes automated, it requires less and less labor. 40 years ago, about 1.6 million people in France worked in agriculture. Now, there are only about 400,000, a reduction of 3/4, with fewer jobs and fewer opportunities to make a living. People inevitably leave. And in any country, low population density creates a vicious cycle. Fewer people means less business activity, an aging population, and young people having no reason to stay, leaving for cities in search of jobs and amenities, which in turn makes the area even emptier. and has even funded research for solutions. But so far, no truly effective measures have been found. While France's geographer makes this problem look unique, it is actually not that special. The migration from rural areas to cities is a global phenomenon. It is a universal rule that more people live in coastal areas where economic activity is more vibrant. So, the fact that modern people are increasingly clustered in cities is not surprising at all.